You know that feeling when you see a game trailer and instantly realise this isn't just another shooter, it's something different, something with a soul. Well, that's exactly what Arc Raiders did for me. From its first reveal, with that washed out retro sci-fi tone, the pulsing synths, the cinematic scale, Arc Raiders instantly stood out. In a gaming landscape full of a live service sameness, it dared to look and feel like art. Today, I want to dive into what makes Arc Raiders so different, how it blends art direction, music, storytelling, and even gameplay philosophy into something that feels genuinely human. Let's start with the obvious, the visuals. Arc Raiders looks like a movie you half remember from the 80s. Washed in nostalgia, but sharper, grittier, more alive. The design language screams retro-futurism, not the clean, sterile future of sci-fi, but the analogue, rough-edged one. It's the kind of art that feels tactile. You can almost smell the metal, the colour palette, muted browns, soft blues, warm sunlight cutting through the clouds. It tells a story of a world that's broken, but still very much beautiful. The developers at Embark didn't just build environments, they built atmosphere. Every abandoned outpost, every crashed satellite, every flicker of light feels intentional. It's not trying to overwhelm you, it's trying to immerse you. And that's something rare, because most games want to impress you. Arc Raiders just wants to make you feel. Then there's the sound design. The synth-heavy soundtrack doesn't just accompany the action, it defines it. The music feels alive, breathing with you as you fight, as you run, as you explore. It's like the game is listening back. The sound of a distant raider engine, the soft crunch of boots on dirt, the echoes of thunder rolling through the valley. They all layer together to build tension and awe. It's cinematic, but it's never fake. It's grounded in the grit of its world. And when the combat kicks in, the music swells. But not like a typical epic moment cue. It's raw, pulsing, human, like the rhythm of survival itself. Everything in Arc Raiders feels earned. It can go from 0 to 100 really quick, creating an unmatchable sense of tension. Never knowing what's around the next corner or what's going to happen helps make the beautifully crafted world feel truly alive. No two games are the same, and every experience has the potential to be a truly cinematic experience. And this is why I want to dive deeper into the world Arc Raiders. Every encounter in Arc Raiders feels unique and organic due to the unpredictable nature of the PvP players, and the truly terrifying arc. Even when I'm losing, I find myself having fun. The experience never feels unfair, despite death being around every corner. What really separates Arc Raiders is its gameplay philosophy. It's not about being the strongest, it's about working together, surviving, adapting. Every fight feels earned, every encounter feels dangerous. That's deliberate. Embark wanted you to struggle, to scavenge, to feel that tension between desperation and discovery. When you see a massive arc in the distance, you don't just rush in guns blazing. You think, you plan, you position, and you execute. It rewards patience as much as skill. It's the anti-power fantasy. You're not a god here, you're a survivor. And that's what makes every victory feel real. There's beauty in that restraint, in reminding players that struggle can be part of the art. Great visuals grab your eyes, but great sound grabs your emotions. Arc Raiders uses its audio design like a narrative tool. The synth-driven soundtrack is absolutely essential to the game's identity. It's retro, sure, but not in a synthwave nostalgia-bait kind of way. It feels purposeful, like the soundtrack of resistance, of survival, of people fighting back against impossible odds. And then there's the environment soundscape, the hum of distant raider engines echoing across open valleys, the static crackle of old equipment, the weight of your footsteps on the dirt, wind rolling through abandoned structures. It all creates a sense of scale and vulnerability. But the real genius is how the game uses silence. Moments where the sound drops back and the music fades and you're left listening to the wind right before the chaos erupts again. That dynamic contrast makes the world feel epic without constantly shouting at you. And during combat, the audio doesn't overwhelm, it flows. Gunshots punch through the mix with clarity, the explosions have this layered depth, and the music rises like a heartbeat. It's not bombastic and it's not overproduced, it's emotional. And that's what makes Arc Raiders feel more like a cinematic experience than a traditional looter shooter. Most shooters today focus on power fantasy. Bigger guns, bigger numbers, faster kills. But Arc Raiders goes in the opposite direction. You're not a superhero, and you're certainly not a tank. You're a survivor, a rebel. A tiny human in a world dominated by colossal machines, and the game wants you to feel that scale. Encounters are dangerous, mistakes matter, positioning matters, and teamwork matters even more than almost anything else. And that's intentional, because Embark wants you to experience the tension. They want you to sweat a bit, to think, to plan. You're not just rushing across maps picking up color-coded loot every 30 seconds. You're scavenging, you're adapting, you're working with scraps and making them count. Every victory because of it feels earned. When you bring a raider down with a coordinated fire, when you improvise a desperate escape, when your team saves you at the last moments, these moments carry emotional weight, and it's what makes Arc Raiders feel less like a power trip and more like a story that you're living through. That's rare and honestly refreshing. One thing I don't think Arc Raiders gets enough credit for is how it uses teamwork. Not just as a gameplay mechanic, but as an emotional anchor for the entire experience. Because when you strip everything else away, the visuals, the soundtrack, the world building, the heart of Arc Raiders is actually very simple. People surviving because they choose to stand together. In a world dominated by these towering, impossible Arc machines, no single player gets to be the hero. No one gets to charge in, guns blazing, and wipe out an entire encounter alone. The game just isn't built that way. And honestly, that's what makes it so refreshing. You need each other. And the game constantly reinforces that in subtle, powerful ways. When a teammate goes down, it's not a minor inconvenience, it's a wake-up call. You feel the pressure, you feel the responsibility. And bringing them back isn't just pressing a button, it's an act of courage, it's an act of trust. That moment when you're kneeling over a friend, shielding them from incoming fire, hoping you time it right, that's where the game's humanity really shines. Arc Raiders doesn't force you into rigid class systems, but it organically pushes players into natural roles. Someone becomes the scout, someone becomes the damage anchor, someone becomes the problem solver, the gadget user, the improviser. And none of that is assigned, it just forms naturally, like real groups of survivors would. The game trusts players to figure it out, to communicate, to adapt, and 9 times out of 10, they do. Games with constant power escalation can feel isolating. You're just chasing numbers, playing your build, doing your own thing. But in Arc Raiders, success feels shared. When you bring down a raider together, or an arc, you remember that moment. You remember who distracted the boss at the perfect time. You remember who saved the run with a last-minute gadget. These aren't just random players anymore, they're people you've survived with. And that creates a kind of genuine, almost unexpected friendship, not forced by a cutscene or a scripted event, but formed naturally through the chaos of the game itself. And here's the beautiful thing. The world of Arc Raiders is terrifying on purpose. The art machines are meant to overwhelm you. The landscapes feel empty because the world has already lost so much. The atmosphere, heavy.
Hey, don't shoot!
But when you're fighting alongside friends, real ones, or new ones you met 5 minutes ago, that fear becomes excitement. That hopelessness becomes determination. There's something powerful about facing something bigger than you, something you can't possibly defeat alone, and still choosing to try, together. And that's what I love the most. The game isn't just about fighting machines, it's about fighting for each other. The Ark represent overwhelming, oppressive force, but the Raiders represent something just as strong. Community, teamwork, and that stubborn, human refusal to give up. And honestly, that's why Arc Raiders resonates so deeply with me. It reminds us that friendship, whether between lifelong friends or strangers who share a moment of survival, is a weapon in its own right. In so many shooters today, you're the protagonist. Even in co-op games, the design tends to revolve around you, your build, your damage output, and your individual progression curve. Arc Raiders flips that. You're not the center of the universe here, you're just one survivor in a world that doesn't care about your stats or your ego. And because of that, your success only ever feels truly earned when the people around you succeed too. This creates a kind of humility in gameplay that's strangely rare in modern titles. The Arc machines aren't just enemies, they're environmental forces, weather systems, natural disasters with legs. They don't feel like something you're meant to survive solo, they feel like something you're meant to survive together. The battlefield becomes a conversation, not with words, but with movement, with instinct and trust. Someone distracts, someone flanks, someone runs to revive, someone quietly reloads and prays they have enough ammo left for one more push. It's improvising, it's chaos, it's art. And you only make it out because you make it out together. You can feel the difference between a game where teamwork is cosmetic versus one where it's foundational. In Arc Raiders, when you finally bring down a massive arc machine after a long, exhausting fight, it never feels like you did it. It feels like you all did it. You remember the person who used the last grenade at the perfect moment. You remember the one who pulled aggro with a risky sprint. You remember the one who saved the run with only their medkit. These aren't just random players anymore.
Yes!
They're people you survived with. And that difference, that unexplained emotional glow you feel after winning a brutal encounter is what makes the game feel truly special.
Yeah, drop the beat.
So after taking this journey through Arc Raiders, its art, its sound, its world, its gameplay, its sense of scale, and the human connections it inspires, I think it all comes down to one simple truth. Arc Raiders is so different because it dares to feel. It's not trying to be the next big power fantasy, it's not chasing meta trends or trying to outgun the competition. It's trying to be itself. A world where style is substance, where music shapes emotion, where every fight feels like a scene from a lost sci-fi epic, and where survival is a shared story instead of a solo grind. Arc Raiders proves that games can still be bold. The retro-futuristic visuals, the washed-out palettes, the lens flares, the analog grit, none of it is accidental. It's a love letter to a particular era of sci-fi that never really existed, but lives in our collective imagination. It's world building through mood, through texture, and through emotion. And that's something you don't see often anymore. And underneath all the atmosphere and spectacle is something even more powerful, the bond between players. Arc Raiders thrives on teamwork, not because the UI tells you to work together, but because the world forces you to. When the Arc descend, when the sky darkens, and when the ground shakes. You don't survive because you're the strongest, you survive because someone chose to stand next to you. And in a world like this one, that choice means everything. In its core themes, Arc Raiders is about resistance. Not just against the Arc, not just against the impossible odds, but resistance in the emotional sense. The refusal to give up, even when everything around you feels broken or too big to fight. And that's something deeply human. The rebels in this game aren't superheroes. They're not chosen ones. They're people scraping by, patching gear together, sharing rations, learning to trust, choosing hope, even when hope is hard. And maybe that's the final reason Arc Raiders stands out in today's gaming landscape. It remembers that games can be more than loops and systems. They can be stories. They can be art. They can be human. Arc Raiders doesn't just give you something to play. It gives you something to feel. Something to think about, something to experience with other people and remember. And that's why this game matters. Not because it's perfect, but because it's alive.